Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Help Me, Harry by Maya O'Malley, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1 Cassie. Always a bridesmaid, never a bride. The phrase filtered through Cassie's thoughts as she packed only just a tad bit more than bare essentials for her upcoming trip to Key West. She had no idea why the thought had resounded in her mind, because it simply wasn't true. At least it wouldn't be for long, that is. Soon, she and Evan would be planning their own wedding, bachelor and bachelorette parties and all. She figured she had plenty of time for that. One thing she knew for sure was that she wouldn't drag her friends down the coast and pressure them to take time away from work and family simply to show their support. Don't judge. She hadn't quite broken the habit of judging, but damn if she wasn't getting a tad bit better with it each day. Cassie's new outlook on life dipped into the spiritual realm with healthy doses of daily gratitude and freeing herself from the ugly, heavy habit of judging others. Part of her was secretly relieved to be taking a break from reality. Teaching and her passion for writing had been eating up most of her free time lately, and Evan had accused her more than once of becoming old before her time and being an anchor of sorts lately. She was no anchor, just focused, determined, and diligent. Since when were those qualities considered negative? She had stuffed her last piece of clothing into her suitcase when her phone started ringing. Evan. She had promised to call him before she left for the airport. Hey, I thought you said you'd call to say goodbye. Cassie's pulse sped up. Haven't left yet. Besides, I thought I told you I didn't like goodbyes. Yeah, whatever you want to call it. It's not hello, so to me it's goodbye. So you must be leaving soon? She heard the pressing of a keyboard from his end of the conversation. Yes, I'm finishing up here and then heading out. She heard the clicking of his fingers on the keyboard. Evan, you there? Yeah, I'm here. More typing. She rolled her eyes. Anyway, I'm heading out for the airport now. The limo should be here any minute. Cassie made her way to the galley kitchen and glanced at the clock on the wall. Literally any minute, she noted. Have a safe flight, my darling, and don't do anything I wouldn't. Of course not, Ev. Call me when you get there? Will do. Love you. She tilted her head down, foreshadowing the antics of the bachelorette activities ahead of her this week. Love you too. I wish you didn't have to go for the whole time, honey. She had pondered the very same thought. If only there was a way that she could skip out early, maybe spend a long weekend in the Keys with her friends, and then still get back to the kids at school, and save some of her diminishing personal days. Actually, I was thinking of... What? No, don't you even say it. Don't worry about me. You deserve the entire time to relax. You hear me? She sat down into the kitchen chair. Yeah, you're right, I guess. Cassie twirled the ends of her hair. He had intercepted her idea rather quickly, she thought. You know I am. Like I said, I'll be fine. You have a good flight, and we'll talk soon, huh? More typing still. Cassie sighed into the phone. Talk soon. Love you. And he disconnected their call. She gazed down at the solitaire white gold diamond on her ring finger. Before she had a chance to weed through her feelings on their conversation, she heard the beeping outside her window. Evan did have a point, though. It had been a particularly grueling past few weeks, with a stomach bug ravaging its way into her school this past month, and the hours she had put in with her writing lately. She would concentrate on trying to have a good time, if that was even a thing. In the back of her mind, she knew that real fun was something you didn't try to have. True fun just happened, and she decided that she would do her absolute best to allow it. Jules looked shot by the time they arrived at the airport. You know, you really should lay off the martinis for a while, Cassie gently suggested. She glanced around at Sarah and Jen, who clinked their own glasses with Jules. Who knew limos came stocked with a full wet bar? Well, their limo did, and contained the makings for every one of Jules's favorite poisons. She must have spent a fortune on this ride, Cassie mused. But then she remembered that she and the bridal party had paid for most of this trip. At least she hadn't shouldered the responsibilities of the maid of honor. Sarah held that honor. Thank God. Ah, don't be such a wet blanket, they crooned together. Was she? A wet blanket? A wet blanket, that is? Evan's voice filled her head, prompting her to let loose and enjoy this vacation. Without giving herself a chance to back out, she reached for a glass and poured the remaining drink from Sarah's tumbler. Nobody needed to know that the tumbler only held about a sip or two. The point was she had joined in, and she had to admit it felt pretty good to sit back and go along for the ride, instead of always trying to steer. Jules allowed the limo driver to escort her from the vehicle, and then she led the way through the packed lines in the airport, charming her way through the best she could manage. That was Jules, always smiling sweetly. Damn if she couldn't charm the skin off a snake. Come on, we can try for an upgrade if we make it before the gate opens. Smooth as she may be, it wasn't in the cards for them to get their seats upgraded. Jules tutted her disapproval as she glanced around the plane. Cassie couldn't make out one empty seat from where they stood. This is ridiculous, Sarah hissed as she squeezed through the tight aisle. 3 seats were together, and Cassie had volunteered to sit across the aisle from her friends. In her opinion, an aisle seat was far better than a middle one. I get the window. We know, Jules, we know. Do I really have to sit here? Jen frowned at the middle seat and then set her gaze on Sarah's aisle seat. Hell no, Sarah said. Guys, you have to remember we're going to Key West, to the beautiful warmth and ocean. They turned to Cassie as one and scowled. Why don't you take your newfound gratitude and switch with me then, huh? Jen nodded toward her seat. No thanks, Cassie thought. She had swiped the aisle seat first through the online travel site and wasn't about to give it up. Just sit down, Jen. We'll be there before you know it. That's what I thought. Jen sulked her way into the middle seat and threw her head back with a click of her tongue. This is going to be a long flight, Cassie figured. She inhaled and counted to 5, held for 5, then promptly released the breath. Chapter 2. Cassie. We're landed safe and sound. She heard chatter in the background and voices attempting to pull him from the conversation. You there? Cassie bent her head and clasped her hand to her cell. Yes, sweetie. Sorry, just trying to catch up on some work here. Glad you arrived safely. It didn't sound as if he were working, but Cassie knew that his sales rep job included lots of schmoozing with the clients during off hours. Yeah, well, we're in Miami and driving down to the Keys. I figure we should arrive in a few hours or so. Cool. Call me later. I'll be working for a few more hours here so we can catch up when you're free, and if I can't answer, I'll get back to you soon. More laughter sounded, and somehow resulting in Cassie gritting her teeth. Yep, I will. She waited to hear if he missed her, but then considered the fact that she had just spent time with him last night. Promise me you'll have fun and let loose a little? She would. She told herself she was here to get a break. I will. Promise, Evan. Talk soon. Call when you hit the hotel. Sure. Talk soon. Love you. Ditto. Cassie crinkled her brows and felt, well, for lack of a better word, grouchy, unsettled even. She wasn't even sure why. Settled into their rental car with Sarah at the wheel, Cassie rolled her shoulders back and forth, releasing the tension she had been holding on to. Breathe. Once they rounded the exit toward the highway, she kept her eyes glued to the bright blue sky and even bluer ocean beyond. Sarah and Jules were in the front of the car while she and Jen occupied the back seat. Sleep teased Cassie, pulling her eyelids down, but she fought the fatigue with constant sips of water and the remains of her coffee she purchased at a kiosk once they landed at the airport. It should be any moment now, right? Cassie said, peering her head toward the window. Jules had been telling them all about the 7-mile bridge, and Cassie couldn't wait. Yep, you'll love it. I'm telling you, it's just like it looks in the movies, but even better. Everything looked better in person, Cassie mused, and with the clarity of the turquoise ocean beyond, Cassie figured Jules was right. It was why she had picked the Florida Keys for her bachelorette extravaganza, after all. But Jules hadn't done it justice, she soon realized, as they rode the 7-mile bridge with the fascination of children stumbling upon the wonder of uncharted territory for the first time. Evan should be here. He would love the experience as much as she, and it would be even more memorable with him by her side. She wondered what he was doing at that precise moment. Probably still having drinks with clients or moving on to dinner, perhaps. Cass? She pulled her attention away from the snaking bridge. I asked if you were thinking of plans for your own bachelorette. Jules, the wedding isn't until next year. Jules and Sarah spun their heads to face her from the front seat. Eyes on the road, Jules, Cassie called out, pointing her finger forward. You have a year. A year. Do you have any idea whatsoever how freaking fast a year flies by? Jules's mouth hung open. Yes, Jules, I do. I'm not doing anything dramatic, no traveling required, so I have plenty of time to plan. She realized her mistake the moment the words escaped her mouth. Jules's eyes glared at her from the rearview mirror. I didn't mean this was dramatic. She used her hands to span the space between them. Jules shook her head, and although Cassie couldn't see her mouth, she knew her friend was pulling her pouty look. You only had to know Jules to realize how Cassie's words would have hit her. Although she and Jules have been friends since elementary school, they couldn't be more different. While Jules was all show and frills, Cassie was serious and determined. Jen and Sarah fell somewhere in between, not quite as girly and overt as Jules, not as sensitive and contemplative as Cassie. I promise I didn't mean, she said again, although all three of her friends turned their heads away from her. Oh, just forget it. Minutes ticked by before any of the women spoke. Cassie kept her eyes on the landscape all around them, but her mind on her own troubles. Was it that unusual for a woman in today's society to not go all out crazy while planning for their wedding day? It seemed to Cassie that it actually sucked the fun out of the big day by obsessing over every little detail. I mean, really, where the hell was the fun in that? But as Cassie imagined her own special day, she fretted that she lacked the enthusiasm that her friends deemed essential when thinking of her and Evan's date, which, by the way, had yet to be finalized. Evan wanted to snag his friend Thomas's family's catering place because, of course, it would make Thomas quite proud to host their event. The venue was palatial and, in her opinion, a bit tacky. She, on the other hand, had always dreamt of a quiet seaside setting, just immediate family and a few close friends, she and her groom barefoot on the beach at sunset. She envisioned the simplicity of it, and yet anxiety spliced through her each time thoughts surfaced around the wedding. We've been meaning to talk to you. Jules's eyes searched out Sarah and Jen, who both nodded their approval. Oh no, this couldn't be good. Only once had they ganged up on her, and it was way back when she was dating Jerry. Yeah, she'd been quite fond of Jerry, and then he had gone right behind Cassie's back and not only hit on Jules, but on Sarah as well. Not on the same night, of course, but yes, Jerry had most definitely tried to get with 2 out of 3 of her best friends. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, chimed in her mind, when she had been so trusting and open with him. So, what, she hadn't been ready to take it to the next level yet? What, he couldn't have waited? Just a little while longer? If you're going to tell me that Evan made the moves on all of you, just go ahead, she half-joked. That's not funny. You're right, Jules, it really isn't, but hey, when do I ever succeed in the joke department? She was being a brat, and she knew it. Jerry being in her head had instantly soured her mood. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out. She repeated her strategy several times and chose to change the moment. She could do this most times, she recently found. She had gotten much better at this positivity mindset. And as much as no one around her understood and poked fun at her, it helped Cassie get out of the funk more than once. She glanced around and silently acknowledged her gratitude for time with her friends, for the beautiful landscape. She tapped her thumb against each finger and chanted one of her new mantras. I can do this. I believe in me. It was a new strategy she had learned, and she had to admit it helped. Most of the time. She took another breath and faced her friends. Sorry, guys. What's up? Listen, Sarah took over. We get that this isn't your thing, bachelorette parties, you know. No, you're wrong. I love spending time with you guys. Let her finish, Jules countered, her eyes narrowed into slits. Jen sat silent beside Cassie, her eyes flitted everywhere in the car except on Cassie. For whatever reason, you happen to be a bit, shall we say, negative about this week. Can we all just agree that none of this will ruin Jules's big celebration? Negative? 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 Her? But she wasn't the most positive out of all of them. Wasn't she? I'm not negative, she said, jutting her chin out. You kind of are lately, Jen spoke up. Chills of irritation rose up on her arms, pausing her for a moment. She closed her mouth, not knowing what to say. Hell, had she been so preoccupied with thinking about all she would miss back home, Evan, her job, writing, that she missed the fact that she was being a royal pain in the backside? Listen, we're concerned is all. I mean, none of us would ever call you a party animal by any stretch, but heck, you've always been fun, always went along for the ride. I hate to say it, but it seems like since you started all this positivity stuff, you've been downright crabby as hell with us. Cassie opened her mouth to correct Jen, but then Sarah swooped in before she had a chance to defend herself.